Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to episode 218 of the Treaty Talk podcast with myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. This week, we're going to be looking ahead to the Hurlers' return to league action. Derry and Leeside play Cork. We also look back on the Limerick Derry football game last weekend in Owenbeg, and also the Dubs coming into town this Sunday. We've news in the football circles with under-20s captains and vice-captains announced. And we also had a big win for Bruff over the weekend as they were crowned Munster champions. So stay tuned for all that and more.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well, God, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea. He deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the left brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Good morning to you, Matt, as we record on Wednesday, the 1st of February. Can you imagine we've a month of 2023 over us already?
Good morning, Jack. Absolutely. And we've quite an awful lot packed into that month when you look at it, you know. We'd say almost 2 rounds of the Football League, round of the Hurling League coming up, the ladies' football. So, we'll say Bruff reaching an All-Ireland semi-final and being crowned Munster champions. We've 2 Limerick colleges in colleges finals this weekend. We may not be in the Hartley Cup final, but we're in the B and C finals. So, and we have the Sigerson and Fitzgibbon Cup, and UL are in the semi-final of the Sigerson Cup after last night, and in the quarter-final of the Fitzgibbon Cup, and potential for Mary I and formerly LIT, TUS, to make it to the quarterfinals as well. So quite an awful lot has happened during the month of January. You would have to say, I suppose, Jack, that weather-wise during the month of January, it was not too unkind for the organising and playing of games. You would have to say, like. I was in Killeedy last Saturday. Jack, the pitch was pristine there. It was simply immaculate. And, you know, talking to some connections from both of the teams after, they just couldn't believe the quality of the pitch at this time of the year. That a pitch anywhere would more about that and on. We'll be talking about Bruff's great win, I know, later in the programme.
Yeah, no, and fair play to the staff, or I suppose the volunteers and local clubs that are making pitches possible playing this year. I haven't come across any poor pitches yet, so that's an indictment to them. But before we get into the action this weekend, we had the sad passing last week of Colin Maloney. He would have been a secretary with the Limerick Ladies Football for a while, and you would have known him, Matt.
Yeah, I'm deeply saddened and extremely shocked to hear of the untimely passing of Colin Maloney. As I said to you off air, he had been secretary of the Limerick Ladies Football around the time of the All-Ireland win in 2018. And I think more recently he has been secretary of the South Liberties GA Club. He was a very, very efficient and affable individual, was Colin Maloney, and he'll be sadly missed. And I would like to extend the sympathy of Treaty Talk to his mother and to his family, and also to Aidan and the staff at Elm Court where he worked and where he will be sadly missed.
Yeah, I'll extend those condolences as well. Another one of the GA community lost, but not forgotten. Moving into this weekend,
on a more pleasant note, before I was out at a very pleasant function on Saturday night, it was the Galtee Gaels victory social. And it was victory social with a difference, Jack. First of all, it was the Galtee Gaels ladies club and the GAA coming together to celebrate, wait for it, the winning of 6 county titles during 2022. The ladies won 4 and the men's won 2. You had the ladies winning the County Junior A, the Intermediate League, the County Under 19B, and the County Novice. And you had the boys, not to be outdone. They completed under 21B and under 19B double.
Yeah,
It was a fantastic night. It was absolutely incredible to see 6 trophies on at the top table, all won within the space of the last year. And the special guest on the night was appropriately one of the greatest players that ever played ladies football, and an 8 times All-Ireland winner with Cork, Juliet Murphy, who came and gave a very nice address before making the presentation. And Dennis Carroll, our Munster Council representative, was there on behalf of Limerick GAA, and Dennis gave an address and he presented the medals to the men folk. But you say it's a victory social, so what? But to me, it was a victory social with a difference. I have been going around to a lot of things over the years, but I've never seen anyone with 6 county titles in the 1 year.
Yeah, it's an awful lot. I know KP had their social over the weekend. That's dating back to, I think, when they won the 2020 Hurling. So they've won an awful lot since then. But it's great to see socials being done over across the county, and also for the men and ladies to come as one, as they did in Galtee Gael. So hopefully Ballysteen will have one for that 21s team later on in the year. But you're going to come in there with
that's the second unique feature of it, Jack. That the fact that the 2 clubs came together, and it augurs well for the future, and possibly because we're going to be moving into the era, depending on the outcome of the McAdee's report, Jack. We're going to be moving into the 1 club era.
Yeah, I think that's the way forward, and hopefully the sooner it gets done, the better. But we'll move into the hurling, if you don't mind, because we do have a big game to look forward to this Saturday night. It's the second meeting of Limerick and Cork already this year. I think there's probably more on the line. I think it's fair to say this time around. We're in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at 7:30 on Saturday evening. Limerick come into the game, obviously, is 3 in a row All-Ireland champions, 4 in a row Munster champions. But over the last 2 years, the league probably hasn't gone the way they'd hoped. They've obviously rectified it, gone down the stretch. But would you see maybe more of a focus from Limerick in the league this year, do you think?
Yeah, it's very, very hard to call it, Jack. You possibly will. Obviously, they got 2 games in preparation in the Munster Senior League, but as you can recall, the teams that lined out in the Munster Senior League, whilst there was a considerable resemblance between the team that faced Cork to that faced Kerry, I think those sides are going to bear very little resemblance to the team that John Kiley will name for Saturday. And I think we will get a sense of how Limerick are approaching the league when we see what the lineup will be on Saturday, as to how many of the big name players will be rolled out. Now, we know for certain, what we do know for certain is that Dermot Burns will not be available as he's travelling at the minute. And we know that Mikey Casey won't be available because he hasn't fully recovered. But thankfully, Mikey's on the way back. But we will get a sense of Limerick's approach to it. And you couldn't have, if you reflect on the 2022 league, Jack, there's a sharp contrast between Limerick and Cork. As you rightly flagged, Limerick really, they lost their first 3 games out of 5 last year. They then drew with Clare and had a good win over Offaly in the final round to get out of the clutches of relegation. Cork, meanwhile, 4 straight wins in the first 4 rounds of the league. Lost to Wexford down in Wexford Park in what was a dead rubber game. Cork had already qualified for the semi-final. Then went on to beat Kilkenny down in Park Equive in the league semi-final. And Jack, the expectation from a Cork point of view was that they would complete the job when they faced Waterford in the league final. But that didn't happen. Now, I can tell you that there's an insatiable appetite at the moment in Cork to get their hands on silverware. Like the Cork statistics and their relationship to silverware are damning, if you like. Cork haven't won the league for 25 years, Jack.
Yeah.
They won it in 1998 when Dermot O'Sullivan led them to victory over Waterford. They haven't won an All-Ireland since 2005. That's 18 years ago, which in Cork is a lifetime, And
yeah, it is. For Cork, it's probably
you contrast that with the success that Limerick have enjoyed in recent years, and in terms of who will want it most, no matter what happens, it'll have to be Cork.
Yeah, it is Cork in a way, but for Limerick, Limerick won't put out a bad team. There's no fear of that. And you say there, it'll be interesting to see. I probably would imagine you'd probably have, let's say, 8 to 11 of the All-Ireland winning team, but then you'd have a couple sprinkled in, and the quality in Limerick means that there's going to be no bad team. But you do make a good point there with Cork. It probably means more to them. But for Limerick, there probably is a feeling that last year Galway got close, Kilkenny got close, and Clare got close, that you probably want to put out a marker as well in the league that we are still the team to beat and we are still the best team in the country. It is kind of a catch-22 because you don't want to be on the 3rd or 4th of February, hitting your peak. But at the same time, the season is so short now. It is hard to pick it up. Limerick have done it in the past, but it's an intriguing one all the same.
It is, but like Jack, if you reflect back on last year and see what bearing the league game had in the championship, the answer is none.
Yeah,
Cork won the league game by 9 points. Limerick won the championship game by 11.
Yeah, I remember being at that league game in the Gaelic grounds, and I was actually very worried at the time that this is the Cork team that we've been promised. And they were exceptional today, but Limerick just turned it around come the championship. But with the likes of Dermot away and Mike Casey and Keane Lynch isn't back yet. Now I know Peter Casey has a full championship under his belt, but mightn't be in county centres. There is an opportunity for players to come in, and we talk about it every week, new players coming in, but there is a huge opportunity there for lads to stake their claim, because it's been the same team 3 years in a row. Obviously, Graham Mulcahy and Peter Casey have shifted positions, and Seamus Flanagan, I think in 2020, wasn't starting till the semi-final, but it has been, fairly straightforward picking the team that if Kiley is to shuffle his deck, it's now that players on the fringes will be wanting to have their say.
Yeah, from the start. If you're talking about how many of the All-Ireland team will feature on Saturday night, first of all, John has got to find a 3 and a 5. That's 2 defenders that he will have to find. And certainly during the Munster League campaign, there were a few hands put up for the number 5 shot, and is it going to be a straight battle between Mark Quinlan and Colin Coughlin to come in for that jersey? At full back, then you have versatility. Like you have Richie English, who can seamlessly move in full back. You have Dan Morrissey, who can move to full back. You've even Sean Finn, who can move to full back. So, there are so many options back there. Now, there's a possibility, I suppose, that we may see Keane Lynch.
Yeah, I was going to come to.
And I would imagine that if we see Keane Lynch, it would be a cameo appearance, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't think there is much point. Obviously, the SNCs will know a lot more than us, but it's probably going to be either very hard ground below in Park Quay, depending on weather, or else very soft this time of year. It's either going to be freezing or quite wet. So I don't think for ankle and hamstrings it's the best time. But it would be good to see him because it will take a while to get back to full fitness. He'll be one of the first names on the team sheet come championship if he is fit. But I suppose you talk about versatility there. If Keane is to come back in, he'll probably go to 11. You're going to have to find a place for Kyle Hayes because he's definitely going to start as well. If he moves back to wing, Dan Morris can start in a 3 very easily. That we could be just going back to the 21 team. But there's also, we spoke at depth about the players. You mentioned 2 of them, Colin Coughlin and Mark Quinlan. In the forward, there probably isn't as many lads putting their hand up for selection, I think it's fair to say.
No. It will be, I can't. Well, of course, Shane O'Brien, I thought.
Yeah.
Aidan O'Connor did all right in patches, in the first game against Cork, certainly has a future at this level, but needs more time and needs more game time. Excuse me, something gone with my breath. It's very, very hard to see the tried and trusted, not being included in the forward line now. I've been hugely impressed with Shane O'Brien right through the championship in Limerick last year, and certainly I thought he did his chances no harm in his appearances against Cork and against Kerry. So he is one that stood out for me. Now it was good to see Pat Ryan back getting game time. Also see Barry Murphy getting some game time and Dan O'Connell getting game time. They're fringe players who really have never left the side down when they've been called upon. And they got some game time, important game time during the Munster League. So whether any of those will come into John Kiley's thoughts, we just don't know. We have learned a long time ago, Jack, how futile it is to be second-guessing John Kiley.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you mentioned a lot of younger players there, but I suppose there is people like, a Dave Reedy, Richie English, Aaron Costello that are, they're out of the underage ranks a good few years at this stage. That I thought Dave Reedy, the last few games last year in the championship, that he was staking his claim. I'd say he was very close to starting the All-Ireland, but his impact off the bench is such that you kind of want him coming off. But the likes of himself, and I mentioned Richie, is always brilliant when he's called upon. That those lads, might put a push on in the league to say, well, we're sick of being on the bench. We want to start now. That I think it could be a really good league for Limerick with just the amount of competition there is for places there.
Oh yeah, sure. Like the competition is just going to be fantastic. Like and as you say, like the squad is extremely strong and possibly has got stronger. Notwithstanding the absence of Dermot Burns and Mikey Casey, so it'll be a very, very strong squad that will go down to Leeside on Saturday night. But for a lot of the players, of course, it will be a first outing of the season, and I suppose there'll be a small. I know they probably have an awful lot of work done, but there will be a certain amount of game rustiness and all that sort of thing. You probably see the like of Willem O'Donoghue and all those back now, possibly Garrod Hegarty back, and Seamus Flanagan, Barry Nash. I think all these lads will. It'll be interesting to see if Declan Hannon will start.
Yeah.
On at the weekend. So, Declan has played so much of it that that John Kiley may opt to use him sparingly during the league. He's such a critical part of the makeup for the championship. So, look, make no mistake about it. John Kiley and his management team will have one eye on the summer, Jack.
Yeah, 100%. And just finally on this game, you mentioned it there, just came to my head. The goalkeeping situation, we've obviously been very blessed with Barry Hennessy that if anything happened to Nicky, we had already made a replacement there. And thank God that never happened to Nicky, only that once. But Barry actually, he started a Munster Championship game, played a load of league games. You now have the situation where David McCarthy and Jamie Power haven't started a league game, haven't started a championship game. Do you blood those guys now so that if the worst case scenario come in, that they're ready to go, or do you just pray to God that Nicky will be all right for another year?
I think they'll go with Nicky. I think they'll go with Nicky. Like the whole goalkeeping slots are very fluid at the moment. Like you have David McCarthy in pole position to replace Barry Hennessy. You have for the third goalkeeping slot, you have Jamie Powers in the mix. Is Jason Gillan in the mix? Possibility of Conor Handley-Clark.
Yeah, they're both hurling with colleges. I don't know if they're in with Limerick, but they're definitely both hurling at the moment. Jason's obviously playing Fitz, and Conor Handley is playing Freshers with UL and has won a league already. But I think, I don't know, have Limerick had 4 goalies at any stage? I think they might have in 19. I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to see, do those lads get a run out.
But Jack, the initial point you made about it is absolutely totally correct. Like we've named 4 goalkeepers. They're all excellent goalkeepers, but they lack that crucial thing called game time and game time in the league, because there is no doubt whatsoever like that the league is a step up from the Munster Senior League.
Yeah, 100%. And then there's another step in the championship.
Like, all right, the Munster Senior League, you're playing inter-county, but you really get big game experience when you go into the league for first time. And the league itself doesn't compare with the championship, as we know. So it's a step thing, a gradual thing. But it'll be interesting. I think David McCarthy's in pole position.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I do think that, as well.
And I'm not being parochial on that, Jack, but I think he's a damn good goalkeeper. Has a very, very good puck out, and something that Limerick haven't used, Jack, at all. But I've seen it with Glenroe over the last number of years. He is an absolutely fantastic long-distance free taker.
Yeah, I suppose we do have a certain Derry Burns that, I'm sure Nicky would take him if needs be, but we have a Derry Burns back there that, it means that we don't have to rely on the goalies. But it is a weapon that, the likes of Owen Murphy and them have. But when you have a Derry Burns, you don't need to delve into that.
Yeah,
kind of
but you always need backup on all these things.
Yeah, I know, but sure, Declan Hannon.
I thought we'd see David having taken some of the line. I'm talking about 80, 90 meters, and he can plant them, And
I suppose
he can do it on a consistent basis, Jack.
Yeah, well, look, the more free takers you have, the merrier. But we are blessed in the backs that I know Colin Coughlin takes long range frees. Barry Nash is well able to take frees. Declan Hannon was a free taker and still is a free taker for a dare, out the field. So we are looking in that sense. But you take all 15 if they could take frees anyway, because you never know, who's on at any given time. But we'll park the hurling there for a minute, and I'll get back to you in a while, because I just want to go through the league itself as a whole before it kicks off the hurling league. But we did have football at the weekend, Matt. Limerick were in Derry to take on, I suppose, last year's All-Ireland semi-finalists and league favourites alongside Dublin in Owen Beg. 16-4 it finished. Now, neither of us were there. You're on your line of highlights and people's reports. I did listen to the match, but I think it's fair to say it was expected that there would be a golfing class. 16-4 makes it look, it's tough reading, I think it's fair to say, but Ray Dempsey spoke well afterwards about getting experience and showing these lads where they need to get to. And I think it's fair to say Derry, we'll start with Derry, we'll obviously have Dublin this weekend. It wasn't a game that Limerick were targeting to win. I think it's fair to say that. They were never going up to Derry thinking we have to win this game. There is going to be, I suppose, less formidable challenges down the way and also at home, which will make it a little bit easier. But to start the league with a 12-point victory is disheartening.
It is. from what I'm reading and from what I'm hearing and the few snippets of it that I saw, for the first 50 minutes, Limerick were well with Derry. But of course, the unfortunate thing about it is it's a 70-minute game. But the performance in the first 50 minutes, Jack, would probably have taken Limerick considerably further against the weaker lights or the lesser lights in the group. But right from the start, before the ball was kicked, I suppose when the division was decided last year in the aftermath of the promotion and division of the 2022 league, the two standout teams in Division 2 for 2023 were Derry and Dublin. And it's just unfortunate, the randomness of the scheduling of the games that Limerick, a newly promoted team, should be facing the two strongest teams in it. And I think, I will be awfully surprised, Jack, and even at this remove, we're only heading into the second round at the weekend, if it's not a Derry Dublin Division 2 final. Because they seem to be two standout teams who are a cut above the rest. Now, that could all change. Like we saw a great performance by Colm O'Rourke and Meath down in Cork last week. So you just don't know. But Limerick were unfortunate in that they drew both Derry and Dublin in the first two rounds, and it didn't give them a chance. It gave them little chance and little leeway to get off to a good start. But having said that, it's a leveling curve for Limerick when you move up a division. That there is always a gap. We saw the gap that was between Division 4 and Division 3, and how Limerick surmounted it and how they bridged it. And but possibly the gap from Division 3 to Division 2 is probably greater. But probably a considerably bit greater than the difference between 4 and 3, if you get my drift.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but at the same time, if you were picking your top 8 teams in Ireland, Derry and Dublin are 100% in the top 8. Dublin are probably number 2, and Derry are probably 4 or 5. So I mean, we'll probably get more of an indication where Limerick are at in round 3. I think the first 2 rounds are pretty much a free hit for Limerick. Would you agree in the fact that it's Derry and Dublin, 2 of the best in the country? It's just the nature of the league. There are going to be good teams in Division 2, but I definitely have Derry above, probably Roscommon, Donegal at the moment, even Tyrone. You'd have Dublin ahead of everyone, bar Kerry, if not ahead of them.
Derry ahead of Monaghan, there's doesn't a doubt. Ahead of Armagh, Derry on the top 4 teams in the country, Jack. And you're meeting 2 teams in your first 2 rounds that are in the wrong place. If it was based on current form, current standard, they should be both in Division 1.
Yeah, 100%. And before we get into Dublin, just a general, and you can include Dublin in this, but a general look around Division 2, because you're saying Derry and Dublin are ahead of everyone else. Kildare probably on that next rung of the ladder. And then you have the other 5, Limerick, Louth, Clare, Meath and Cork. 4 of those played each other. Clare left it very late against Louth, and Meath's goals beat Cork. But there probably isn't much between those teams. And obviously last year, Limerick lost to Louth by a point in the league round robin stage, lost by I think 3 or 4 in the league final, but beat Clare, pushed Cork all the way in the qualifiers. That Limerick are at that level. It's just the first 2 rounds will probably
and that's the point I made at the outset. Had they met one of the other 5, where they would have stood a decent chance of winning the game, it would. What I feared, Jack, and what I feared when I saw the schedule, was that Limerick would be sitting on no points after 2 games. And
it's going to take an astronomical effort for Limerick to get points against Dublin. It would take a
And
huge effort for any
I
team.
wonder what does that do for confidence. I'd be a small bit worried on that one. But I think the lads will probably be pragmatic enough to know, right, we're here against two of the top 4 teams in the country who should be in a higher division. And they'll probably say to themselves, and let's hope they get something out of the Dublin game, although I find it very, very hard to see. They'll probably say, hey, who have they in the third round?
Loud away.
Loud away. They'll probably say to themselves, our challenge for survival and consolidation starts here.
Yeah, I would think round 3 to 7 are your rounds. You have Loud away, then Cork away, Clare home, Kildare home. I think you have Meath away then to finish the league. But it's a free hit. But we will touch on Limerick versus Dublin this weekend. First and foremost, we'll say at the start of 2020, Dublin were aiming for 6 in a row. They went away and completed that. Limerick were in Division 4. So if you had said 3 years later that Limerick and Dublin would be in the same league, no one would have believed you. They wouldn't have believed, first and foremost, that Limerick would have got 2 promotions, but they never would have thought, Dublin would have came down. So for Limerick to actually be competing against Dublin says an awful lot.
It's kind of an unreal match, a totally unexpected match. If you go back as far as 2018, Jack, and then in my preview, that's as far back as I went. Dublin won the league. Limerick got 3 points in Division 4 from a draw with London and a 1-point win over Waterford. They didn't do much better in 2019. They had just 2 wins over London and Waterford. But like 2020, it all took off, as you said, 3 years ago. But I think what kickstarted the rise of Limerick football was that surprise win, a surprise to most people, but not a surprise to Billy Lee and his men, when they went to Hurlers and beat Tipperary in the championship in 2019.
Yeah.
Now, they suffered a heavy defeat to Cork afterwards. But there was a belief at that stage that, that they could do it, and went on the following year, won the McGrath Cup in January, and really hit the ground running in the league then.
Oh, yeah. It's been pretty much an upward trajectory ever since for Limerick.
It's an upward trajectory, but of course, it's sort of a confluence of events in so far as that Dublin lost their Division 1 status, and it coincided with Limerick taking another step in the upward trajectory in their fortunes and reaching Division 2. Yeah. But you're right, 3, 4, 5 years ago, Dublin playing. If you said to somebody, we'll be playing Dublin in the National Football League, the person you said it to would be entitled to call the guards. They think you were gone off your game.
Yeah, you would have been considered mad at that stage. But that's the way we are. And look, it's going to be very difficult for Limerick. There's no 2 ways about that. We saw the gulf in Derry, and Dublin are probably better than Derry as well. But to have the likes
one thing is, of course, but you made the point there that Kildare would probably be the third team in it, and they possibly are. Like, Kildare pushed Dublin all the way in Croke Park last weekend.
Yeah, and they beat them
all the way. There was only 1 point in it. So I'm asking myself the question, and it will be only answered this weekend: are Kildare very good, or are Dublin not as good as we think they are?
It's probably a mix of both this early.
Because I wouldn't be surprised if Derry were to top this group now.
I would think it'll come down to where they play, where Dublin play Derry. I'll just check it here. Derry are at home in round 5. Yeah, I wouldn't be incredibly shocked, but I would be very surprised if it wasn't Derry and Dublin at the end of it, as you said at the start.
Well, I'm thinking it's going to be Derry Dublin unless there's a massive shock along the way. Now, at the outset, I was saying last week when we were looking at the Limerick Derry game, I was saying watch Cork in the football. I have serious reservations and second thoughts about that with the way, first of all, the way they lost to Meath, number one, and secondly, the way that their defence was opened by Meath on 3 or 4 occasions.
Yeah, I can see 3-14. Like you'd imagine,
3 goals, and they could have got a couple more. So if there's frailties at the back, I'll tell you there are no better teams than the like of Dublin and Derry to exploit it. And from a Cork point of view, they go to Kildare this weekend. And it's a game, if they're to harbour any promotion ambitions whatsoever, they dare not lose, because they still have Derry and Dublin in the ether.
Yeah, I think when you score 19 points in a football game, you would be expected to win. So to score 19 and still lose says a lot about your defence. But look, it's early days for Cork. I don't think they'll be relegated. I think they're probably a step above those other 5 teams I mentioned. But you can be dragged into relegation very quickly in a division like this. Louth and Clare, did you pay much heed to that, or?
Well, I paid as much heed as I could in so far as that I'd be looking at Louth and Clare as 2 possible win games for Limerick.
Yeah, and I think the way
I would see the Limerick Clare and the Limerick Louth games as being, going a long way in deciding Limerick's fate in the group, in the division.
Yeah, and the fact that there was a 1-point win for Clare would give you confidence that Limerick beat Clare in their last time they played them in last year's championship in Ennis. They'll have them at home in the league, I think, I'm fairly sure. So it looks like it's going to be very close at the bottom and maybe a bit of a runaway at the other end of this table. But look, it's going to be Limerick versus Dublin this Sunday at 3 o'clock in the 2 Skellig grounds. You're going to have some of the stars in the country, the likes of Brian Fenton, your Conor Callaghans, your Mike Fitzsimons, these boys coming to Limerick. It's a good day for Limerick football in general that we're now playing at this level. Hard to see the result going our way, but that we are actually playing these teams is just showing that Limerick are definitely going in the right direction. So the best of luck to Ray Dempsey and his team. And look, we won't.
Yeah, and I suppose that boosted by the fact, and it was great to see it last weekend. That Hugh Burke has fully recovered from injury and got some game time in Derry, and probably is nailed on to start. And I understand that Ray Dempsey confirmed after the game that Brian Donovan is closing in on a return as well. So if we were to have Dara Tracy maybe at midfield, it would be a big plus. So look. You'll be just hoping for the best. I suppose Ray Dempsey will be looking for performance first and foremost, and then to see where will it take him. But it's very, very hard to see Dublin or Limerick arresting. Now, they've only met 3 times ever, twice before in competition, Jack. And you were not, I can confirm that you were not around when they met for the first time. They met for the first time in the 1896 All-Ireland final. You weren't there, Jack, I take it. You were away that day.
I was away. I was in Ballybunion.
And Limerick won it 1-5 to 7 points. Now, they met in the league in the Gaelic grounds in 2007.
Yeah.
And Dublin won it. 14 points to 110. So there's been only a point in it in the 2 previous meetings.
So they're level going into the third game.
On scoring difference, that level, Jack, and then games won and lost their level. So
the series decider this Sunday in the Gaelic grounds in Limerick and Dublin. But it's going to be hard for Limerick, but it'll be interesting to see the Dubs come into town, because they still maintain a good share of that team that won 8 All-Irelands in 10 years. So just to see them in the flesh will be, it'd be like seeing Dave Clifford. You'd go out in here regardless of the result. You just talked about Hugh Burke there. Obviously, there's a bit of bad news on Brian Fanning. He had to go off injured at half time.
Yeah,
doesn't look like he'll make Dublin this weekend. And I think we did our MVPs last year. I think Brian was in both of our teams, so vital to everything Limerick do. So please God, it's not as bad as feared, because look, we can do without him against Dublin when we're back against it, but the likes of the Louths away and the Clares at home, that's when you want a man like Brian Fanning. He obviously got the goal in the championship last year, so please God, Brian will make a swift recovery. And if you get him back, and Brian Donovan, as you said, the likes of Dara Tracy, Hugh was back now, you're looking at a far more formidable Limerick team. Staying on football, and we got an announcement there
I'd just like to concur with you there and wish Brian a speedy recovery there, and agree with everything that you've said about him. He's a crucial cog in that Limerick team, and it is definite. Ray Dempsey confirmed it after the game in Derry that he really is in a race against time to be fit to face the Dubs.
Yeah, so best wishes to Brian there, and hopefully he makes a full recovery. Last night we got the news that we have our captains for the Limerick under-20s. The captain and vice-captain, Father Katie's Deirdre Buckley is the captain, and Ballysteen's David O'Shannessy is vice-captain. Now, I can't say I've seen much of Diarmid. He was obviously cornerback for the senior team, and he was part of the team that won the Premier on 21s. But for Davy, I think it's just reward for him. He's been probably Ballysteen's best player over the last 2 years since he made the step up from minor. He was obviously the top scorer for us when we won the 21s county. So a big congratulations to Deirdre Buckley and David O'Shannessy. And since we started recording, Matt, I got an email with the team. Now I must make sure that there's no thing to stop us sending out for a while. But sure, I'll run through the team.
Yeah,
anyway.
I was expecting it. I knew it was coming, Jack. But I probably haven't the same level of technology as you have.
Yeah, it's to be.
I must concede that to you, but they're heading into the Liam O'Connor Cup now, Jack, which is a pre-season under 20 tournament, and they will have games with Offaly, Clare, and Tipperary, which will be a nice warm up for their championship opener. Now, we saw the draw for the Munster Championship was made last Thursday night, Jack. Yeah. And we saw for a second year in a row, even though prior to last year, I think Limerick and Waterford hadn't met for over 20 years in the Munster Championship. Or it was a long time anyway, but they meet now for 2 years in a row. So Limerick, believe it or not, will have home advantage, Jack. But were they to overcome Waterford, they will travel to Cork for the semi-final. And it's all happening in a very close time frame in early April, I think. And it's on a Monday night. The championship is going to be on Monday evenings, which is a new departure. But they will play Waterford in the opening round, and they will play Cork 7 days later. But getting back to the Liam O'Connor Cup, Limerick have been in this competition for the last couple of years, and with the same three counties. And you must remember, Jack, that just 2 years ago, Offaly, who were in the Liam O'Connor Cup, went on to win the All-Ireland under 21 or under 20 title. So it'll be a very, very interesting warm-up. Like I think the counties are graded to a certain degree because the Cork and Kerry's, Dublins and Galways, they're playing for the John Cairns Cup. It's their pre-season under 20, the late John Cairns, an All-Ireland winning goalkeeper with Cork. There'll be a couple of good warm-up games for Limerick, and as you said, it'll be very, very interesting to see that panel. Obviously, I knew it was coming this morning, but it hadn't come by the time we had gone on air. So I'll retreat when we're finished the podcast and study it, Jack.
Yeah, look, there's obviously going to be names on it that we know from last year, but it's always exciting to see these teams. And the way the year is going already, we're already into February. It won't be long till we get to that April 10th date, and we'll also have the 20s hurling as well. But the best luck to
but these games are going to be, these O'Connor Cup games are coming up in February, Jack.
Oh yeah, the league will be on fairly soon, so we kick into gear. And
I'm not sure if the notification you got contains the dates for them, but I certainly had the dates before Christmas, and I published them before Christmas.
I don't have the dates on me now, but yeah. Look, with the best luck to those boys leading out their team. Briefly, UL last night dethroned NUIG, UCG, the University of Galway, whatever you want to call it. Brilliant game blow in Dangan. They won by a point, I think, after extra time. They were ahead in normal time. A Paul Walsh goal, chip to the keeper. Brilliant chip to the keeper with about 10 to play, but Galway's All-Ireland captain, All-Ireland final captain, I suppose. Sean Kelly got the leveller, but UL found the winners in extra time. Some brilliant performances throughout the field. St. Kieran's as John Hayes played his part. Owen McLaughlin was very good. Derek Cashman from Cork was very good as well. So good to see UL into the semi-final. They still haven't won the competition. They're obviously beaten in last year's final, but to knock out Galway, who had been so good so far, was another good sign and a step in the right direction for Declan Bruder. That all bodes well for Limerick football. We also have Toos in Fitzgibbon Cup action this Thursday. They play TU Dublin. They just need a win to go into the quarterfinals alongside UL. Mary I are hoping for a favour from DCU against Carlow. They meet tonight, I think. They need DCU to win by 4 points to go into the quarterfinals, and they were unlucky, I suppose, in both their games. They fell to a late equaliser against Carlow and a late goal against DCU. So hopefully Carlow or DCU can do them a favour this evening. So the best luck to all Limerick colleges. As you said at the start, UL are safely through to quarter-final, and
they're safely through, and so DCU Docus Erin through. They beat MTU from Cork last night, beat them quite convincingly, 2-12 to 9 points. Pretty even first half in that game. And the other two quarterfinals are on this evening. We have UCC travelling to Abbottstown in Dublin to play St. Mary Belfast, and then we have an all-Dublin quarter-final between TU Dublin and UCD. So the lineup for the last 4 of the Sigerson Cup will be decided within the next 24 hours, Jack.
Yeah, but
and the lineup for the quarter-finals of the Fitzgibbon Cup should be completed this evening as well. Who we know for definite are safely through. UL are safely through. UCC are safely through, as are UCD. So after that, I'm not quite sure who else is safely through, but there isn't. There are not 8 places at stake this evening. Some of the colleges are safely through.
Well, Toos are playing on Thursday afternoon, so they won't. The winner of that game, Toos and TU Dublin the Toos and ATU Galway will join UL from that group. We'll know more.
That's going to be a very interesting game, and it's one the Toos just have to win, Jack. I think win, and it'll be enough to get to the quarterfinal.
Yeah, I can't remember what the score was between Toos and UL, but I know UL beat Galway by 13 points. I don't think they beat Toos by 13, so a draw would probably be enough for Toos. But you want to be getting into the quarterfinals with a win. I think that's fair to say. But we'll know all the permutations. We'll know the last 4 in the Sigerson and the last 8 in the Fitz next week when we're recording. But UL are going to be in both of them anyway. That's for sure. And please, Mary I and Toos can join them in the Fitzgibbon. We also have a couple of schools finals this weekend. I think I know Palace are in the C final, and it's Castletroy in the B final.
Yeah, Castletroy in the B final, and they're playing Hamilton High School from Bandon, which should be a very interesting game. Now, I know very, very little about Castletroy other than that they beat High School Clonmel in the semi-final. I know that Hamilton High School from Bandon, they go under the Irish, their name in Irish, which stumps me. But they had a good win over what was a strong Charleville team, Charleville CBS team who was coached by James Reardon of Templedanton and had 9 Limerick players in their squad. But Charleville pushed them all the way and just came up short in the end. So it's hard enough to judge that particular one. So wish Castletroy College the very best of luck. Now they would have a very generous sprinkling of players from Monaleen in their squad and in their team, which should be a big help. So that will be an interesting one. Now I hope to get out to the other final, which is the C final, which involves Salesian College Pallaskenry, who are seeking the title for the first time since 2014, and they face Mitchelstown, who have not won it. Mitchelstown CBS since 2004. Now, there will be a very, very interesting exchange on the line because two heavy hitters in opposite camps. You've Colin Ryan, an All-Ireland winner with Clare in 2013, and the Salesian College camp. And on the Mitchelstown CBS, you have the one and only Anthony Nash. So they will be big names guiding their respective teams. The configurations of the teams are interesting, Jack, in that Salesian College Pallaskenry are a very, very close, a close-knit sort of squad, in that they're drawn exclusively from three clubs: Kildimo, Pallaskenry, Patrick Swell and Ballybrown. In contrast to Mitchelstown CBS, which are drawn from 8 clubs over 3 counties: Cork, Tipperary and Limerick. There's one player from Gallisbillan in the squad. So but both have been impressive on their way to the final, and both have come through the group stages unscathed. Salesian College Pallaskenry were only in a 3-team group, which they topped. They won both games, and then went on and were involved in 2 Limerick derbies, beating SMI in the quarter-final and Hazelwood College Drumculloher in the semi-final. Mitchelstown, in contrast, were in a 4-group school, and they came through with 3 wins out of that with full points, and they had clear opposition in both knockout games. They first of all beat Scariff Community College in the quarter-final, and then defeated Ennis Diamond in the semi-final. So it augurs well. It's all set up for a great final in Kilmallock on Saturday, and the throw-in in that game is at 12 o'clock, Jack. And let's hope that on Saturday night we may not have the Hartley Cup this year, but we could have a college's treble.
Yeah, hopefully.
B, C, and D. We already have the D in the bag with Coloston, the Trócaire at Kiel, and let's wish the best of luck to Salesians and to Castletroy College in the other 2 finals. Now, very interesting, Jack, and we spoke about referees and Limerick referees being in demand. Eamon Stapleton has been appointed to referee the Hartley Cup final, and Jonathan Hayes has been appointed to referee the Condolences final, the football equivalent.
Yeah.
So, wish Eamon and Jonathan the very, very best of luck in their respective finals.
Yeah, and wish the referees and also the teams best luck. Hopefully, as you said, we'll have that Limerick treble in the hurling. We did have a big winner from Limerick over the weekend. We had Bruff were crowned Munster Junior Hurling champions with a win over the famed Hurlers Sarsfield in Killeedy last weekend. You spoke about Killeedy at started the podcast about how well the field and everything was, but how well did Bruff play to beat such a historical side in Hurlers Sars to claim the Junior B Championship, and now they have an All-Ireland series to look forward to.
Jack, I'll speak about Bruff in a minute and their great win, but I have to speak about Killeedy because, Jack, I'm in awe of Killeedy. The way they run this competition and the coming together there of those that are involved in the Killeedy GA club. And have you been at the Killeedy competition?
I haven't this year, no, but I've been there before, but I haven't been there this year.
Yeah, like the sense of the level of organisation, Jack, is just simply phenomenal. And I've been going there for a number of years, and every year you go, you see further and more investment in their facilities. They have top-class facilities, absolutely top-class facilities. Getting back to the game, Jack, your original question, it was a fantastic win by Bruff. And first of all, they went into the game as outsiders, Jack, and that was probably justified. And insofar as that, they won the semi-final. They beat 6 Mile Bridge They struggled to beat 6 Mile Bridge. They shot a lot of wides. A lot of things didn't go right on the day, but it was their first game out. But by God, Jack, did they address them in Roger Mulqueen, John Mulqueen, Morris Herr, and Brian Finn, their backroom team, Billy Irvin. By God, they addressed them since. And just as I'm talking in Bruff, I would just like to mention James Dempsey, who's been a stalwart of Bruff for many years. Always at Bruff games on the sideline. James is hospitalised at the minute, and we wish him the very best of luck for a very speedy recovery. Love to see James back. Hopefully, James will be back for the All-Ireland semi-final, but he's been indisposed now for a couple of weeks, so we wish him the best of luck. But they faced the Tulla Sarsfield team. They came in justifiably as favourites, Jack, because they had a big win over Cork champions Fremont. But that, and look, they seem to be wearing the favourites tag very well in the first 5 minutes, when a fella called Keane Tracy had 3 points on the board. And, the damning statistic from a Tulla's point of view is over the next 55 minutes, they only got 4 scores. They got 3 in the first 5 minutes, and they got 4 in the next 55. But that is more testimony to the way that Bruff grew into the game. And like, when you talk about captaincy, Jack, and we talk about it in terms of Declan Hannon time and time again, but I saw it being played out in Killeedy last Sunday when with a magnificent display by the Bruff captain, Cian Madden, who was absolutely outstanding from start to finish. And he took the game by the scruff of the neck, and he got a point when they were 3 down. And from that point on, Bruff defence tightened. And Cian Tracy didn't score again. He got 3 points in the first 5 minutes. That was his lot. And you had the defence, and of course they had to contend with the threat of Redzer O'Grady, the former Tipperary player. Now, Redzer O'Grady got a goal a minute after half-time. I'll come to that in a minute. But we had the Bruff defence tightening, and Cian Madden was outstanding, leading from the front. Tony Burke and Cian Madden are the 2 survivors of. They played in the Munster final in 2014 when Bruff were beaten in the intermediate clubs final by a point by Cappoquin. And David Mulqueen at the edge of the square, full back, and directly facing Redzer O'Grady, and he was absolutely immense at full back. And they Bruff suddenly, came up to the pace of the game, and after conceding the first 3 points, they hit the next 4. And they were right back in it. Now, David Brown at corner forward was excellent, Jack. He got 8 points. He took a couple of frees, Jack, from a huge distance in an awkward angle and potted them. And at the end, it was scores like that made the difference. But the work rate of Bruff throughout the field was simply phenomenal. Never let Tulla Sarsfields get into any rhythm whatsoever. It was high intensity and hugely entertaining from a neutral point of view, in that you were there in Rahina, and you didn't know until the final whistle what the likely outcome was to be. But O'Grady got the goal immediately after half-time. It was a mix-up between 3 Bruff defenders who I thought possibly left it to one another. And O'Grady, with all his experience, just came in and flicked it into the net. And, there are few players would have spotted the opportunity that he spotted, but he spotted it and made it count. And for a long time, Jack, it looked as if it might be the winning score. But thankfully, they only, Thurles only got a further point in the whole game, but the game finished with 4 points from David Brown. Absolutely fantastic. Fantastic marksmanship by I can't stress enough the role that he played in it. Absolutely vital. Like, you had Cian Madden at the back leading from the front. You had David Brown, making the maximum, and the opportunities were few. You have to say 10 points to 1-6. I'd say that was a desperate game. It wasn't. It was tight. It was hard. The fences on top. So every opportunity had to be made to count, or as many as possible. And by God, David Brown did that. An excellent win for Bruff. They go forward now to an All-Ireland semi-final on Saturday week when they'll play the Leinster runners-up, who are St. Martin's from Kilkenny. Now, if memory serves me correct, but I'm subject to correction on this, Jack, St. Martin's have won the competition before and have an awful idea that they beat. If you give me a second, I'll check it now. I might be, as I say now, I wasn't drinking last night, Jack, in case you think.
Oh.
As I know what you were thinking straight away.
I'm
right. They won it in 2010. They beat, because I remember being at it, and I think there's a replay now, but I'll have to check. They beat St. Mary's Rathkeil in the final.
Well,
the All-Ireland final.
Can get a semblance of revenge for the Limerick side. But yeah, look, it's an incredible
achievement. Jack, the level of improvement that I saw in Bruff from the semi-final to the final, I'll be very happy that they will be a match for anybody. And
well, we look.
They're in the All-Ireland for a reason, and and they have as good a chance now as the next. Now, Sarsfields from Galway won the Leinster. The Leinster Championship, or the Leinster competition in Killeedy, and they will play Thurles Sarsfields in the other semi-final. Not this weekend, the weekend after.
Well done to Bruff, and we look forward to that All-Ireland semi-final in a week's time. But before we finish, Matt, I said we come back to Hurling.
Before I go away from that now, Jack, also the Derry tournament, which is the football equivalent to Killeedy. That gets underway this weekend. On Sunday, we have the opening game between Kilgarvan from Kerry and Cura Clare from Clare in the first quarter final. And then the following week will be of Limerick interest because, and we'll be talking about it next week, we'll have the meeting of Dermot O'Mahunas from Cork against Castletown Ballygrand from Limerick.
Yeah, we look forward to that game next weekend. So well done to Bruff, and the best of luck to Castletown Ballygrand. But we will be talking about that game next week. But to finish, I did say I'd come back to you just to finish off with the Hurling and the National Hurling League. Limerick are in Group A with Wexford, Galway, Cork, Westmeath and Clare. And then Group B is Tipperary, Waterford, Dublin, Laois, Kilkenny, Antrim. First and foremost, do you think Limerick will start off with a win? And who do you think will come out of Group A?
I have a hunch that Limerick will. And I think they have a strong chance of coming out of Group A now. You have Wexford and you have Galway in there. It's a possibility 3, and I'd say it's a 3-way for the two places. Between Cork, possibly Limerick and Galway.
Yeah, I don't know about Clare. They'll have a lot of lads playing fits and things like that.
Yeah,
I think
Clare will have a say on that, but
I'd be siding with Cork. I just think they have an awful lot of young fellas coming through that they'll be keen to hit the ground running like they did last year. I do expect Limerick to do better than they did last year. I think they'll beat Cork. I know it's counterproductive, but I think Cork will probably be the top team in that group, if I had to guess.
Yeah, possibly. I'm whittling it down to between 3, possibly. Now, Clare might give me a good dose of egg in my face, but, so be it if they do, But I think there'll be 2 from 3 into the semi-finals.
I don't think there's semi-finals this year.
Or is there were semi-finals last year? Are they gone?
Yeah, I think it's just a straight final this year. I think it's 1A. The winner of 1A plays 1B. I think that's what I'm looking at here. If it was that case, Galway, and then on the other side, Tipperary, Waterford, Dublin, Laois, Kilkenny, Antrim.
I fancy Tipperary.
Get that bounce from Liam Cahill. I'm going to go with Waterford again. They're always good this time of the year. Whether they can translate that now under Davy into the championship, But I do think Waterford will be, they'll have the Ballygunner boys back a share of them. I'd be going Waterford and Cork final. I think it was as it was last year. But please God, you'd love to see Limerick there. But I think, as you said, the summertime is what they're aiming for, and they can make an awful lot of history this year. They could become the first Limerick team to win 5 in a row in Munster. They could join. Is it Kilkenny and Cork is the only teams to win 4 in a row of All Ireland's? But look, that's way down the line. We're just glad to have Limerick back in action this Saturday evening below in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Brilliant stadium to really start your season in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. But we'll leave it there, Matt. We have 1 hour and 5 on the clock. I think that's plenty for people to listen to on the 1st of February. Best luck to both Limerick teams this weekend. Obviously the Hurlers on Saturday and the footballers on Sunday as they welcome Dublin. And we'll have a bumper episode next week, but you're going to jump in there again.
A happy St. Bridget's Day to everybody.
Oh yeah, of course.
We've a new bank holiday on Monday. How bad?
Yeah, how bad is right, and we'll be reflecting on a lot of games.
You'll take a long sleep, I take it, Jack.
Yeah, if I don't have to do a bit, I will be sleeping in. But that remains to be seen. But a huge thank you to you, Matt, and to everyone that is listening or watching or whatever way you're consuming it. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff, and we'll grow this ever-expanding community. But for now, thank you, Matt, and thank you to everyone listening. We'll be back again next week.
The question again we get out with what you put into. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.